Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Patrick was checking the company emails when his cell phone vibrated. It was late afternoon, and he was already thinking about getting home and having dinner with Lauren, as he did almost every Tuesday. It was routine. And he trusted routines. But that message that popped up on his phone made everything crumble in seconds. Your best friend just walked into your house. And your wife greeted him with kisses. They're betraying you right now. He stared at those words for a few seconds. It was an unknown number, no name. It could be a nasty prank, someone trying to cause trouble. But something inside him turned. A discomfort in his chest, as if that message had managed to touch the only fragile part of his structure. He grabbed his keys and rushed out of the office. He didn't even say goodbye to his co-workers. He drove without really thinking. All that went through his mind was the image of Lauren and Derek together, in the place that should have been his alone. When he arrived on his street, he parked carelessly. As soon as he got out of the car, he saw Derek coming out the front door. The smile on his face seemed out of place. Lauren was at the door, waving lightly, as if saying goodbye to any ordinary friend. That scene hit Patrick like a dry punch. "What are you doing here?" he asked, approaching. Derek, surprised, answered calmly. "I just came to drop off a package. Jessica asked me, it was on my way." Patrick stared at the two of them. His heart was pounding hard, and he felt his body tense. Lauren looked confused, trying to understand what was going on. "And you, Lauren? Are you going to say you didn't know?" he asked, not hiding his anger. "Patrick, for God's sake, what are you talking about?" "He just came to leave a package Jessica asked for." "It was quick," she replied, taking a step toward him. "Quick? Why didn't he leave it at the door? Why did he come inside?" "Because I asked him to," Derek interrupted. "I thought it was better to deliver it directly." "You thought it was better? Since when do you make decisions around here?" The tension between the three grew. Derek kept his calm tone, but Patrick could no longer pretend everything was fine. Every word seemed to inflame something bigger inside him. Lauren insisted there was no reason for suspicion, but he was no longer listening clearly. "I want you to leave, now," he said to Derek. His friend hesitated for a second, then nodded and walked away. Patrick went inside, followed by Lauren, who tried to say something, but he no longer had patience for explanations. He dropped his bag on the couch and turned to her. "How could you do this to me? Patrick, for the love of God, are you hearing what you're saying? I would never do that. Where did you get that idea?" "I received a message. They said you and Derek were together here at home. And then I arrive and see him leaving through the door as if nothing happened. It's too much of a coincidence." "A message? From whom?" "I don't know. An unknown number." "And you believed it? What else was I supposed to do?" She started crying. She said he was jumping to conclusions without reason. She swore there was nothing between her and Derek. That it was absurd. Patrick stood still for a few seconds, breathing heavily. Then he turned, went to the bedroom, grabbed a suitcase, and started putting clothes inside. Lauren followed him, begging him to stop, saying they were destroying everything over a misunderstanding. "Are you really going to leave like this? Are you going to throw everything away because of a message? I need to think. I need to breathe. This has all turned into a nightmare." He finished packing the suitcase, passed through the living room without looking back. Lauren stayed at the door, crying and saying he was making a mistake. He closed the door behind him and went down the stairs without looking up. He felt everything he knew was collapsing silently but devastatingly. And at that moment, he could only think of one thing: if there really was betrayal, he needed to know. Patrick spent that night awake. Lying on the bed of a simple and cold hotel, staring at the ceiling without being able to relax for a minute. The weight in his chest felt tangible. The images of Derek waving to Lauren, their vague responses, her defensive attitude, everything spun like a whirlpool in his mind. The silence was an enemy. What bothered him most wasn't just the possibility of betrayal, it was the fact that until that day, he trusted. Without measuring, without hesitation. Now, he wasn't even sure of his own intuition. The next morning, he took a shower, dressed in what he had in the suitcase, and left. He drove to the neighborhood where Jessica lived. He needed to understand this story about the package. It was a detail, but it made all the difference. He parked, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. Jessica answered with a look of surprise and concern. She didn't expect to see him so soon and with such a somber expression. "Hi, Patrick, are you okay? I came to talk." "It'll be quick," he replied. She opened the door. He walked straight in, without beating around the bush. "I want to know about the package. The one Derek took to my house." She was silent for a few seconds, as if trying to organize what she was going to say. Then she gestured with her hand, asking him to sit down. "The package was mine, yes. I was going to take it. But Derek offered." "He offered?" "Yes. He showed up here by chance, we ran into each other coincidentally, and I mentioned I needed to deliver this to Lauren. He got excited, said he could take it since he was going that way anyway. I told him it wasn't necessary, that I'd deliver it myself later, but he insisted." Patrick kept his gaze fixed on her. "Insisted?" "Yes." He seemed enthusiastic. That word kept hammering in his head. Enthusiastic. Derek was never one to get excited about this kind of favor. He was practical, direct. He did what needed to be done, and that was it. Patrick stayed quiet, but Jessica continued. "Look, Patrick. I didn't want to say this, but I've had my doubts about the two of them. I never said anything because it was just my feeling, I thought I might be exaggerating. But now, with all this, it seems to make sense. And I'm really sorry about it. She's my friend, but certain things, if true, are unforgivable." Patrick rubbed his face. His head felt heavy. Jessica's words added to the text message, to the scene from the night before, to Derek's strange behavior. Everything seemed to fit together. There was no proof, but the collection of details formed an image hard to ignore. Jessica placed her hand on his shoulder. She said she was sorry, that he was a good person and didn't deserve to go through this. But he didn't react to the gesture. He was numb, submerged in a whirlwind of thoughts mixing anger, pain, and a twinge of regret. Regret for not paying attention earlier. For maybe ignoring obvious signs. He left Jessica's house without saying much. He just thanked her with a short nod. When he returned to the car, he sat for a few minutes, hands on the wheel, without turning on the engine. He saw flashes of the recent past, uncomfortable memories that now took on new meanings. A silly comment during a dinner with friends. A text on Lauren's phone, which she laughed at. Everything that once seemed normal now appeared under a different light. One that hurt. Patrick picked up the phone and opened the last conversation with Lauren. There were still messages from her trying to talk, asking him to come home, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But now, after what he heard from Jessica, something inside him had changed. Doubt was no longer doubt. It was an embryonic certainty growing with each detail. He dropped the phone on the passenger seat and started the car. He had made his decision. Even without definitive proof, all of this had already broken him inside. And somehow, he felt there was no going back. 2 days later, Patrick was leaving the reception of the hotel where he had stayed when he received an unexpected message from Derek. It was straightforward. He wanted to talk in person. Patrick stood in front of the car for a few seconds, wondering if it was worth opening space for that conversation. There was still anger, wounded pride, a feeling that all of this was unnecessary. But he agreed. They arranged to meet at a discreet cafe. When Derek arrived, he looked worn out. There was a heaviness in his eyes that Patrick couldn't decipher. The silence between them lasted until a coffee was served. Derek was the first to speak. "I don't know what's going on with you, but I had to come here. You're believing something that doesn't make sense." Patrick crossed his arms and kept a steady gaze. "It makes sense to me." "Sense? You saw me at your house and already decided I'm a traitor? That I'm capable of destroying a lifelong friendship? You showed up there, at the exact moment. It was too much of a coincidence. I went to deliver a package, as I explained. Do you want me to swear again? Do you want me to beg? What do you want?" "I want the truth. Simple as that. The truth is that you're being manipulated by someone. And if there's any chance for you to wake up to that, there's still time to fix it." Patrick held back his anger. Derek's words sounded rehearsed, as if he had already prepared for that moment. His tone was more frustrated than defensive. Still, Patrick stood up and said he had heard enough. He asked Derek not to contact him anymore. There was no mood, no space. Trust had been ripped away. Back at the hotel, Patrick thought about Lauren. She kept sending short messages, most of them unanswered. Some tried to have a conversation, others just asked if he was eating properly, if he was sleeping. He read them but avoided replying. Still, as hurt as he was, there was a part of him that wanted to understand. Something still bothered him. The next morning, he decided to return to Jessica's house. She was the only person who seemed to have helped him in that tangle of doubts. He rang the doorbell, and she appeared with her hair tied up and a soft expression on her face. "Patrick, do you want to talk? I need to know if you're sure about everything you told me." "I am." "Why?" "Because the only thing I had was that anonymous message. I started connecting the dots afterward. But, it was the message that set me on this path." Jessica shook her head slightly and went to the kitchen saying she would make some coffee. Patrick stayed alone in the living room, restless. He paced back and forth, trying to organize his thoughts. Then, on impulse, he took his phone out of his pocket and decided to call the unknown number that had sent the message days earlier. As soon as he pressed the call button, a muffled ringtone echoed through the room. He stopped. The sound was coming from nearby. He followed it with his eyes until he reached a corner cabinet. He approached slowly, as if he knew he was about to discover something that would change everything. He opened the first drawer. The ringing got louder. In the second, he found it. A cell phone, vibrating. He stared at the device for a few seconds, without touching it. Then he ended the call. The ringing stopped. He took a deep breath and, to be sure, called again. The phone started ringing again. He picked up the device firmly, as if the truth had finally materialized in his hands. At that exact moment, Jessica entered the room with 2 cups. When she saw Patrick standing there, holding the phone, her expression fell apart. He didn't even need to ask. The answer was already in her eyes. "Was it you?" She stopped. The silence lasted a few seconds, then she lowered her eyes. "Yes. I sent the message." Patrick stared at her in shock, eyes unblinking. "Why?" "Because I knew you'd never see it on your own. I always felt there was something between them. And seeing you giving so much, being faithful, trusting, it hurt me. I knew that if someone didn't show you, you'd keep living deceived. And why didn't you tell me outright? You wouldn't have believed me. Not coming from me. And you thought this was the best solution?" Jessica shrugged, as if she had imagined this confrontation several times. But Patrick was somewhere else now. He no longer saw just a friend trying to help. He began to see a woman with her own interests, who acted calculatedly and threw everyone else into the fire. Patrick thanked her for the coffee and left. In the following days, Jessica started showing up more. She offered to handle small things, sent messages asking if he needed anything, told old stories from college days, laughed at memories, tried to be light-hearted. But over time, her gestures took on a different tone. She started getting physically closer, touching his arm while talking, laughing in a more intimate way, complimenting him, until one day she blurted out, "You know, I've always admired you." Always. Patrick looked at her without saying a word. The realization began to hit him hard. That closeness wasn't recent. It was old. It had been there before all this happened. And perhaps the whole plan had been born from a deeper feeling than mere compassion. He distanced himself. But Jessica was persistent. And that only fueled his suspicion. Until the moment he decided to pressure her. "I want you to tell me now, with all the words. Did you invent everything? Did you destroy my marriage?" Jessica took a while to react. She tried to laugh, tried to change the subject. But Patrick kept staring intently. "Confess, Jessica." She took a deep breath. Her expression changed. The mask slipped. "I love you, Patrick. I always have. Ever since the first day I saw you with her. You never noticed me. But I was always there. And every time she appeared holding your hand, it was like getting stabbed." Patrick felt the blood drain from his face. He froze for a moment. Jessica kept talking, as if releasing everything she had kept bottled up for years. "I couldn't take it anymore. You lived for her, while she treated you like a second choice. You're the love of my life, Patrick. And I only did what anyone would do for love." He left without saying anything else. He got into the car with trembling hands. His chest felt heavy, as if he had made a huge and irreversible mistake. But now he knew the truth. And there was only one person who needed to hear it, Lauren. Patrick left Jessica's house without looking back. His breathing was heavy, his hands shaking, and his heart pounding as if he had just escaped something far darker than a simple lie. He got into the car, dropped the phone on the passenger seat, and stared at the steering wheel for several minutes before starting the engine. The image of Jessica confessing she had created everything out of obsession still spun in his head. Her voice, saying she loved him since college, that she hated seeing him with Lauren, sounded like something out of a twisted script. The most perverse part of it all was that she got what she wanted, she planted doubt, separated, destroyed. And all with a single message. A short phrase that turned his life upside down. He went straight to Lauren's house. He parked the car across the street and observed for a while, trying to gather courage. When he finally got out, his steps were firm, but his chest carried a heavy weight. He rang the doorbell and waited. Lauren opened the door, unable to hide her surprise. Her eyes were red, her face tired, but his presence still stirred something inside her. "I found out everything," were the first words he said. "The message. The one they sent me, it was Jessica." She confessed. Lauren stepped back a little, making space for him to come in. But she didn't say a word. Patrick entered slowly, as if stepping on ground that could collapse at any moment. In the middle of the living room, he stopped and looked at his wife. "I accused you. I left you alone, listened to others, and was cowardly. I let myself be carried away by something that today I see was a trap. I fell right into it. And I destroyed everything we built based on assumptions and fears. Forgive me, Lauren. Please forgive me." She crossed her arms, her voice breaking. "Do you know what hurt the most? It wasn't even you leaving. It was you believing I would be capable of something like that. After everything. After all these years. You trusted an anonymous message more than the woman who slept by your side." Patrick couldn't argue back. He just stayed silent, hearing every word as if they were blades. He deserved it. I stayed here trying to figure out what I did wrong. I thought maybe I was pulling away too much, that I missed some sign. And in the end, it was all made up by someone you let into our lives. I was stupid. Weak. And I'm not here trying to justify anything. I just needed you to know the truth. To be the first to hear it. And if you want me to leave, I understand. But I needed to look you in the eyes and tell you that everything that happened was based on a lie. And that I still love you. She took a deep breath, as if trying to contain something that wanted to explode. But it didn't explode. She simply said, "Leave, Patrick. I need time. I don't know if I can trust again." He nodded and left. He got into the car and stayed there for hours. That night, he didn't go back to the hotel. He drove to Derek's house. He wanted to close another chapter. Derek received him with surprise, but when he saw his expression, he understood. She confessed, Derek. Jessica. It was all her. Derek breathed a sigh of relief, and a single tear fell from his eye. They stared at each other for a few seconds before Patrick opened his arms and asked for forgiveness. The hug was long, but different. Both knew it would never be the same again. But there was respect, there was truth. The days passed with a silence that weighed more than any shout. Lauren disappeared. She didn't send messages, didn't call, didn't show up anywhere. Patrick respected it. He tried to focus on work, but everything in his routine screamed her name. The smell of clothes, the pillows tossed carelessly on the hotel bed, the weak coffee he made trying to replicate what she used to prepare. Every corner of the day brought a different memory. He avoided places they used to go together. He changed his route to work, stopped listening to the songs that played in the car when she was with him. But it was useless. Her absence was everywhere. On a random night, while organizing loose documents on the desk in the hotel room, he heard 3 knocks on the door. He stood still for a moment, expecting it to be some staff offering room service. He opened the door without thinking too much. It was Lauren. She had a serene expression, no makeup, her hair tied up carelessly, wearing a light coat and clutching the strap of her bag tightly. He froze. She took a deep breath before speaking. "Can I come in?" He moved aside without saying a word. Lauren came in, looked around, and sat on the edge of the bed. Patrick leaned against the desk and waited. She seemed to be searching for the right words, as if each sentence needed double care. "I came because I got tired of trying to erase everything from my mind. I tried. Really. I got angry, I felt betrayed by your distrust, but, more than that, I missed you. Your presence. Our home. And no matter how far I distance myself, I keep coming back to the same question: why would we let something so strong die because of someone who just wanted to see us apart?" Patrick approached slowly. He sat beside her. They remained silent for a while that didn't need to be filled. "I messed up badly," he finally said. "And if you hadn't come today, I'd probably spend the rest of my life trying to figure out how to fix this." Lauren looked at him with watery eyes. "Then stop trying to fix it. Just come home." This time, he didn't resist. He pulled her close and hugged her as if the world were crumbling outside and the only safe place was there, in her arms. They spent that night together, without needing to discuss anything further. The explanations were given in silence, in gestures, in touches. When morning came, Patrick already knew what to do. He would pack his things from the hotel, leave the key at the reception, and go home. Not to where he lived before, but to where he truly belonged. Because, in the end, there are mistakes that teach. And there are pardons that save. Suspicious of your wife or daughter-in-law? Don't go through what we saw in the video. Check the link in the comments and get the ebook with valuable tips and investigator-approved sites to clear your doubts. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.